Toledo, an ancient city carved in stone, wrapped in the winding arms of the Tagus River, a city that has lived 1,000 lives. The story of Toledo is a tale of cultures converging, faiths colliding, kingdoms battling, and religions intertwining for the first time in humanity. A long time ago, a city called Toledo was born, and it was raised by people who lived close to the earth, the Celtiberians. They carved homes from stone and watched the stars for signs. They built with strength, for the land was wild, and only the clever survived. Not many years later came the Romans, marching with their sandals and shields, with their roads that stretched like ribbon across the empire. Toledo became theirs, a small but proud town with laws, baths, and markets. The city learned Latin, wore togas, and listened to Roman poets, but it never forgot the hills that guarded it. As time passed, Rome grew old. Its pillars cracked, and across the crumbling empire, new rulers emerged. One day, men with golden brooches and swords rode into the city. They were the Visigoths. They made Toledo their capital, not for its size, but for its soul. Kings and bishops gathered here. They wrote laws. They held council. They argued about God and kingship. And in this city, church and crown learned to speak the same language. Then, in year 711, a new wind blew across the land. It came from the south, bearing the sounds of Arabic and the call to prayer. The Muslims arrived, not with fire, but with thought. And in 1714, Toledo opened its gates. The city became a garden of knowledge. Philosophers wrote by lamplight, physicians studied the stars, and poets recited verses as the river whispered below. But more importantly, the city became something rare, a place where Muslim, Jews, and Christians lived side by side. Even when the Muslims were defeated and the Christian knights returned in the 11th century, they did not destroy what they found. Instead, they listened, learned, and built upon it. It was during this golden weaving of faiths that a new house was built. Not a palace, not a fortress, but a synagogue. It was a house of worship for Jews, built by Muslim hands and architecture under Christian rule. Its white horseshoe arches rose like prayer into the air, elegant, quiet, and timeless. In the 13th century, Toledo continued to flourish. In its candlelit halls, translators worked miracles. They took books in Arabic and Hebrew and gave them a new life in Latin and Castilian. Ancient ideas of medicine, mathematics, and philosophy, nearly lost to war and time, flowed through Toledo's pens and out into the waiting world. But all good things must come to an end. And in 1492, the Crown of Spain expelled the Jews, and not long after, the Muslims too. A silence fell over the city, like a door slowly closing. Yet Toledo still stood tall. In the heart of the city, stone by stone, the Toledo Cathedral had risen where once a Visigoth church had stood, and before that, a Muslim mosque. Its towers pierced into the sky, its chapels glittered with gold, and its bells rang with royal pride. Stained glass windows ignited the air, casting rivers of color across the marble floor. Columns rose like forests, and vaulted ceilings arced like the ribs of a giant beast made holy. This cathedral is a city within a city, carved from silence and lifted by prayer. And just when Toledo seemed to have spoken all it could, another figure arrived. In 1577, a strange man came from Crete. He spoke Greek, painted like no one else, and saw visions. His name was El Greco. His art stood out for its long, stretched figures, dramatic skies, and emotional intensity. A style of art that was never seen before and was deeply spiritual. Toledo shaped much of his visions, and although not appreciated at the time, his unrealistic spiritual artwork inspired a whole new genre of art. Modern artists like Picasso saw him as a true pioneer of expressive and modern art. Years passed, and the royal court left. The kings moved to Madrid, and Toledo finally became quieter as its power faded. But Toledo is not a city that dies. It remembers. It remembers the Celtiberian warriors and Roman engineers, the Visigoth kings and Muslim scholars, the Jewish scribes and Christian cardinals. It remembers every footstep on its stone, every voice in its street. And today, if you walk its narrow lanes at dusk, when the shadows stretch and the bells begin to toll, you can feel it. Toledo is still telling its story. You just have to listen.